Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for making the effort to join us. As Barb and I have already alluded to, we got some exciting developments, and you'll get an opportunity to chime in on more than a few things that we'll talk about this afternoon. It is the Underground Utilities Mapping Project Team for October 27th, 2002. The agenda, as previously sent and is posted there. Barb's going to start out with talking a little bit about a recent CGA event that she attended. And then we've got vice chair admin items. I've got a slew of them. So that's why I've asked for 15 minutes. Then we'll move on down to the CGA Underground Utility Mapping and GIS Best Practices Committee has recruited Barb, and she's got some updates and discussion items there. And then we'll move on to bringing you up to date on where we are with the project, the software piece to move this whole thing forward. And we'll close out with some open discussion as needed and then wrap up at the end. And so with that, Barb, you got the floor for the Orlando as one of your items, the meeting that will take place down in Orlando in 2023.
Yep. Thanks, Steve. Thanks to everybody for coming in. What I'd like to do, though, is there's two people I don't know who they are on the. So there's an iPhone 12 Pro Max. I just wondered who that was. If you could say who you were. If you could take yourself off mute. And then there's another 507 ending in 01 phone number. I don't know who that is either.
I'm Brenda Hansen with Infrastructure Resources.
Oh, good. Thank you. Okay.
Yep.
Well, thank you. Thanks for joining. And then the Pro Max. Somebody can you say who you are? Okay, then. So yes, so as Steve mentioned, we have a lot happening, a lot of good progress. We completed phase 1 at the end of September, so we'll review that. And we're in the process of developing the statement of work for phase 2, and we'll go into that in a minute. But last week I submitted a proposal for the annual CGA meeting. That meeting takes place April 17th to the 21st in Orlando, Florida. The presenters are myself and Bob Esquez. So the two of us will go through the update of the system, give a live demo because we can do that now. And we should be able to give a good update on phase 2. So that's it's already accepted basically, because at the meeting I had in St. Louis 2 weeks ago, Sarah, the CEO of CGA, said, "Yep, you're in. Just submit it." So as you'll hear in a minute, we're way out ahead of everybody. But just so you know, this is the CGA's #1 priority for 2023. Is higher quality maps and access to those maps, and it's one of their 4 next practices. But I'll get more into detail on that right after Steve goes through some of his stuff. So go ahead, Steve.
Okay, thank you, Barb. Obviously, as Barb's indicated, we've had a big gap in what's gone on here, and so I need to update you on a variety of administrative items. I have 4 main ones. First one is I regret to inform you that one of our stalwart and keystone members of this effort, Jeff Zeiss, passed away in September. And for those of you that only heard him on the line tangentially, he was an absolute giant in the field in which we are currently operating. I've posted a number of links in the agenda that I sent out, and I'd encourage you, if you want to find out something about Jeff and his background and all of the stuff he's contributed, those first couple of links will more or less get you there. With he received a dedicated obit from Ottawa Citizen. DP Pro in May had listed him as a damage prevention hero and gave him a very nice write-up there. His Between the Poles blog is absolutely jam-packed with incredibly insightful discussions from his travels around the world, his engagement with the underground utility community, and his many years of thinking about all the issues that we're dealing with and seeing different ways that people have approached the issues before us. And Carleton University has set up a scholarship fund. The organization that I'm with has already donated. So if you have any interest in trying to move forward a scholarship that's going to be focused in the community we're working in, there's an opportunity to do so. And I think most insightful of all, given the fact that Jeff held a doctorate in theoretical chemistry, the thing that he claimed on his LinkedIn page as being his primary point of focus as he was in the final years of his life due to cancer was advisor at Minnesota Underground Utility Mapping Project. That's how strongly he felt about what we're doing and the effort that's ongoing here. So that's my dear friend Jeff, and I regret to say I never took up the opportunity to go up to Ottawa and skate the canals with him. It just sounded like it might be too cold. But there you go. Minnesota Geospatial Priority Survey is out. I'm not a big fan of stuffing the ballot box, but in this case, I'm going to make an exception. The deal here is that this is what got us in front of the Minnesota, the Association of Minnesota Counties, the Clean Water Council, and so on and so forth. And these are entities that are looking at trying to do what they can do to send money to this effort. So the advisory council directs how the effort in the state of Minnesota in the geospatial realm is focused. It more or less lays out the template of what that office should be considering to be its priorities. And so Barb and I, over the last couple of years, have watched it move up from the original time that it was on the survey. I think out of 27, we came in at something like, I don't know, 19 or whatever. And then in this case, we've over the years moved up to the position of being like number 3 or number 4. And so when you come into the survey, it's really quick. It's just going to ask you what sector is your organization in. And then you get to come down through this survey set, and all you got to do is click the buttons to tell people if you think that particular item is important. So the one above it is to publish foundational data nationally through open data commercial sources. Foundational data sets are defined as parcels, address, road center lines, and critical infrastructure. So, I mean, that's the kind of flavor of different things in there. And as the 8th item down, there it is, a project team to develop geospatial data sharing methodologies to support the state underground utilities community. And it's kind of a backward approach to how you would want to indicate. Typically, my brain thinks the further to the right you go, the higher the rating. They've got it turned the other way around. The highest rating is the first one in. Again, as you get down into past the what sector you're in, it's the 8th item down. And this URL was also published as part of that PDF that I sent out as the agenda. So an awareness item there, and anything you can do and to promote in your communities or whatever to come on board. The cutoff on this thing is November 4th. And the more people we can get telling the state that what we're doing is important, the better off we'll all be. So please give it consideration of jumping in there and offering an idea or two. In September, I was called by the platform individuals putting together the 2023 platform for the Association of Minnesota Counties. And this group goes up once their platform is gelled. They go up and they pound on the desk of the legislature, telling them these are things that this state should be considering important, and you ought to be looking at putting funding towards these kinds of things. I'm not sure that they're still in the process of milling this thing down. I'm not sure where we fall in actually making it onto the platform, but if we do, it will be significant. And one of the things that they were interested in was the effort that has been put forward by this diverse team to come up with an approach to consolidating utility data and exposing it for safety dig purposes. They're also seeing it, the potential of using that for consolidating and understanding where the broadband infrastructure is in the state. So there are multiple thoughts in play on that one. Scott Landis, who has been a longtime friend of this community, shot me an email a couple days ago and asked that I make a pitch or at least let you all know about some of the efforts that they've got undergoing over at Infrastructure Resources. Their labeled effort conferences, the Global Excavation Safety Conference. And that'll be held in Tampa, Florida on February 14th and 16th. And the effect of it is Scott has gone ahead and verbalized that they'd be open to us doing a session at that. So I know Barb's schedule is absolutely overflowing with people requests to come and give presentations. So I think the best way to think about that one, and again, Barb, I'll just, right while we're doing this, bounce it off you as to how you'd like to proceed as to whether or not, if somebody's interested in going and presenting on their own, should they contact you? How would you like to deal with that?
I guess two questions. One is we're already at the CG. We will be at the CG meeting in April. Maybe Brenda, do the audiences overlap? Maybe you could just help us with that.
Barb, if you don't mind, this is Karen. I can answer that.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I thought that was you out there too, Karen. Thank you. Yeah,
of course. So there may be some overlap between the two audiences because it is a damage prevention and excavation safety show. We will have the FNCA meetings are taking place there, as well as the Leading Women of Damage Prevention. CAMO is having some meetings as well. So we'll have call centers there. We have a lot of GIS and GPR sessions. So I know that Travis had presented last year. So this would be great to build off of for the continuation of your session from last year that you provided. But while there will be some overlap, we certainly will have a wide audience. We typically have more of an international audience. Last year we had 13 countries represented. And so to be able to pull some ideas from other places and see what they're doing and to be able to share ideas, I think this is a great spot. I'm working with Ken Kerr from UESI, and I've also talked to Phil Meese. They both have some mapping projects that they're working on that could be a really good fit just for idea sharing with this group as well.
Yeah, I appreciate the push, and we should do this. I don't mean to sound reluctant. It's just a lot of running travel. And I am on the board now of FNCA, the call center. So I have to be there as well for the day before. So I'm not being reluctant about it. I guess I needed this push. So we'll say yes.
Okay. And Barb, why don't you and I work together offline, and I will make it as convenient for you as possible. I think you guys have meetings Monday and Tuesday, and if you'd be agreeable to it, if you'd want to present on a Tuesday session, I'm happy to do that for you.
Oh, that would be excellent. Okay, yeah, because I do have to be there.
It's easiest for you. Okay.
And then at the CGA meeting, it's me and Bob. So I probably would ask Bob again to present because he is the subject matter expert. If Bob can get away to Tampa, maybe he won't be too. Oh, he says okay. I really had to twist that arm.
So would you rather be in a barn in Wisconsin in winter or in a conference center in Tampa? Okay. We know
that one was a pretty easy okay. So
I know. I was just like, his hand was up before I even asked. No, Karen, thank you for the push.
Hey, Karen, why don't I stop blabbing and you want to take 2 and 3 also?
Oh, good idea.
Sure, I can do that. So for number 2, as always, and you guys have submitted articles in the past, but if you guys have some points of this project that you want to be able to bring forward, I've jotted some down, and I'll have more from this call, but feel free. It looks like send those in to Steve. Steve and Barb can look through them for the content, and then they'll send it along to me. If you are wanting it to go out at a certain time, or you have a date that you'd want it to land, I can work with Steve to let him know which issue that would fit best in, and we can work from our article deadlines. If it's just something that you want shared with the industry as a whole, send it to Steve and I can get into our next publication as it lands.
So what would you recommend? Because we've got 2 conferences, February and April.
Yes.
What would you recommend? What thing? Because we should do this as well as an update. What are you thinking for which?
So what I would say is, if you could have an article put together by end of November, that would go out in the spring issue of DP Pro, which would land in February. So that would have you covered for the Global Excavation Safety Conference. And it would also match that April date that you would need for your CGA meetings. Our next publication wouldn't land until June. So we'd be a little bit too far out for that April meeting. I think spring would be the best time for that article.
And what's a cutoff date for the June publication?
For the June publication, your cutoff date would be March 21st.
Yeah, I think let's wait because I'd like to know where we are on phase 2.
Okay.
Phase 1 is good, but I don't think it has enough punch. So I don't know, Steve, what do you think, or anybody else? But I'd like us to be further along to add a wow factor to it.
Yeah, my sense is I think that's I would agree with that.
Yeah. So let me make a note. I have that too then.
So,
that's the end.
I've jotted that down too. The only other thought I would have would be if you wanted, I know we did an article on phase 1, but if you wanted to revisit that and have an article in phase 1 in the spring issue and have it be a 2-part, and then the second part, phase 2, comes out in the summer issue, it would keep it top of mind for the readers.
Okay.
Well, you're a good arm twister. So that's.
I think your phase 1 article just would need. I just have you guys review it and change it from there. I know we've already done one.
Well, that's a great idea. Then let's do that. So, oh my goodness.
All right, Karen, your
time is up. Right.
I'm done. Barb's
no. Off. Yeah. So you have one more there. Point number 3.
One more. So we have the Excavation Safety Alliance. I know from the names on the call, some people have participated in our virtual town halls, but we do have a moderator opportunity opening up, and the town hall title would be something along the lines of up-to-date underground utility maps, reduce damages, and how they can be improved. So if you are unfamiliar with the virtual town halls, they are free. They last 1 hour. They're conducted on the second Thursday of every month. They're at 10:30 a.m. Central Time. We typically have a moderator and roughly 4 to 6 panelists, and it's an open discussion. We've done them on late locates. We've done them on one-call laws. We've done them on electric damages. We've done them on women in the industry. So our topics come from our audience members and them requesting having follow-ups on certain pieces. I know our Sioux topic, we had a lot of follow-up requesting more on that. And so this is just if there is somebody that would like to participate, Steve, if you're okay with it, I'll drop my name and my email in the chat. You can reach out to me and then I will take that off of Steve and Barb's plate.
So,
Rather-
so I didn't follow the end of that. So when would this be? What month?
This one we don't have a date scheduled for. It's just been a topic that people have said that they are interested in. So at the end of each town hall, we have a survey and people can suggest additional topics that they'd like to know more about. And this is just kind of how we start formulating, do we have the right audience for it? Do we have enough people that are wanting to speak about it? And would we be able to put out a good conversation? So this is very early phases. I know it would not fall any sooner than January because we already have November, December booked.
Okay, so I think there's many people on this call today that could speak on this. You know, we did that GPS enabled locator program. We've got this program. So somebody on this call, I don't know who that would be.
Yeah,
I was-
I might be interested. So
Uh,
this
And,
Travis.
and who's that?
Travis,
Oh, good. Travis, I didn't recognize your voice because I can't see all the little
Yeah.
people.
I can do that. And then depending on those that would be interested, I could get an email going between all of us and we can figure out the time that's best for your schedule. I want to be aware of when you're out in the field and when it might be more convenient for you sometimes than others. So we have a lot of flexibility in our planning for this one.
Sounds good.
Yeah, thank you, Travis. This is great. Excellent. Yep.
okay, good
So
stuff.
what's your 4, 5, and 6, Karen? Oh, you're on a roll.
Yeah, no, it's great. I'm glad to be back. So that was the other thing is that I would like to be able to come back and join to participate on this team. I know Valerie had been here. She has left IR for a different event industry. She's moved to the grocery industry, so she's very excited.
Okay, oh, good. Well,
But-
welcome back then. This is
I would
great.
like to be back. So great. Thank you for everything.
And again, thanks for being proactive here with us.
Thanks, Karen. Appreciate it much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the last thing I want to hit here is the fact while you were on the beach this summer, I want to make sure just kind of pass along the idea. The leadership team has been extremely busy in terms of meetings and coordination and connecting with other entities around the globe that are involved in similar efforts, and so the leadership team has met at least once a month. The FusionView OCC development effort was meeting weekly, and I think, Bob, you guys are still on that schedule, aren't you?
Yeah, but the meetings they're ending up to be like 5-10 minutes more updates than anything.
Yep.
A little bit of planning stuff.
Paul Tischer I never know how to pronounce his name correct. Did I get that right, Barb? Paul?
He's on you're on the call, Paul, right?
Anyway,
Sure.
yeah. So anyway, Paul did outreach on behalf of this effort to WSB, and they have been working closely with Barb to try to help facilitate some of our administrative cleanup things and position themselves to help with outreach to the utility community. So we're really looking forward to that opportunity. And then Bob's been deeply involved with the Canadian Asset Register team. Barb and Bob and Dean were on a call with the National Underground Asset Registry in the United Kingdom. Bob recently presented at the Minnesota GIS LAS conference up in Bemidji. And then last but not least, Barb's extensive efforts, which is the segue on CGA. Right there you go, Barb.
Okay. So I don't have any slides on this, so I'll just talk, and I'd like feedback and discussion and input. So most of you know that the CGA has an initiative called Next Practices, and there's 4 of them. We're involved, meaning GSOC, in 2 of them. One is the digital white lining. the second one is involvement with, because of this project, underground mapping utility. So I attended, so I'm on both those committees. There was an in-person committee at the beginning of, I forget, maybe it was early, yeah, it was earlier this month in St. Louis. We spent half a day in the field with back trucks and locators and accuracy of maps and that whole bit. And then the next day was developing strategy for the GIS, better quality maps and access to that data. And that's the initiative of one of the best practices. This is the #1 priority for 2023 for the CGA. Sarah Magruder Lauder was there the entire time. She ran the meeting with Erica. There's 4 board members on the committee. There's I joined it a few months ago, and then there's UtiliQuest, Gas Line Company, Aspire, and other industry folks on the board. So what they basically talked about was basically where they're at is where we were 2 years ago. What is it? What do we need? How do we get there? So they're taking these steps. They're taking a survey of industry stakeholders as to what quality maps look like. So they'll have questions on that, what's needed, what are some of the attributes, and also related to accessing those maps. They used the word access. It came out pretty clear that data transfer to a big repository isn't going to work. They talked through that during the meeting. But so how do you access that data? Then they want some case studies as to who's doing what. So by February, they'll put out a request for us at the Underground Mapping Project team to highlight some of the attributes and how we're approaching it and where we're at. The other 2 case studies were more about how you go and you locate, and then you take GPS-enabled locating devices and read those marks, and that becomes then better maps for your horizontal directional drilling for fiber. That's the example that we witnessed. And then there was one other case study, but I don't remember what that was. And I don't see it on my notes here. So that's where it's at right now. My position at the meeting was to say what we've done, but not in a lot of detail, because a new committee has to find their own way. And I didn't want to be Debbie Downer that we tried that didn't work. But during the course of that whole day, they did realize that, national repository is not the way to go. They're very interested. They understand that how to access the data, how to keep it confidential, how to handle the security. So all of those things that we are dealing with. The good news is that as we continue our development, and hopefully I expect phase 2 will go swimmingly. And if this is the way they want to adopt things, we'll have a much bigger platform, more advocacy in the whole industry for adoption. But I don't want to get the horse ahead of the cart here, so to speak, or the cart ahead of the horse, whichever way you say that. So I'm just a very active participant representing what we're doing here, not overselling or saying that doesn't work. I'm letting the process play out with them. So by the time the April meeting comes along, I think we'll be in a good place to say, where is the CGA next practices going on GIS and access to data? So I was, they're very impressed. I mean, they're like, how are you doing this? How did you get so far? I mean, they're very impressed, and I'm not a show off type person. So I didn't, I'm not, I didn't tout our own horn. I just I'm trying to keep low a little bit so that we can get our work done. And then be in a good position come February, March, April to have phase 2 well down the road. Any comments or feedback or how I am approaching this? Do you think I'm being I'm approaching it properly with the right balance of sharing and letting the discovery take place. So I'd appreciate any comments or feedback.
Oh, come on. Somebody out there's got some
Somebody.
feedback for Barb. Come on.
What do you think about let's ask a question then. What do you think about the CGA's position that this is their number one priority? What does that tell you, or what should that tell us? How should we interact with them? I really do need some of your thoughts.
Hey, Steve, Brad Henry, am I on board? I can never tell if I'm muted or unmuted.
Yep. No, you're good to go,
Yeah.
Brad.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay. Let me go back to what I suggested a year and 2 years ago. Number one, I think you need to bring this in front of MnDOT. And I sent you guys a note. The presentations close next week. So I think we should get a presentation in front of MnDOT. And
Let me just interrupt you on that, Brad.
Yep.
So we are going to do that. We
Yep.
decide. So thank you for that.
yeah, just, and actually this is for the whole group. Again, if we don't have the engineers buy-in, you just aren't going to get anywhere on this whole thing. And also, I think we need to bring this to the attention of the city engineer group and the county engineer group. Both of them meet in January. And what I would do is I'd just reach out to them and tell them, see if we can get 10 minutes on the meeting, because really what it is just making an announcement of this.
So could I just be bold and can you help us do that, Brad? Because
Well, that's what I would do. Again, I'd reach out to them.
Okay.
Typically,
Okay.
you know, with our little Minnesota 2050 group, we attend those conferences every year, and we try to steal 5, 10, or 15 minutes just blabbering about what we're doing.
So the answer is yes. The answer is yes. We'll do both of those.
Yep. And
Okay.
just to reinforce that. So then the other question I had, how are you utilizing WSB? You really zipped through that bullet on the slide really quick.
Well, they're kind of a secret sauce. So, and I'm just kidding. So Paul has been working with them because of the locators, the RTK locators. They became aware of our activities. We had a couple meetings with them. They are all about and supportive of what we're doing. The open source software, the approach, not just right-of-ways, but everything in the state. And so they have been really, they're going to see our pitch, but they're really going to help us connect with the high level of the utility companies, because they know the right people at whatever utility company it is that we need to make this sales pitch at. And I say a sales pitch, but talk about it. We've got to be at the right executive level. And so that is their I think their key help for us is socializing this, getting it into the common knowledge of the utility industry within the state, and then be just persistent about it.
And I think hopefully everybody on this committee is aware, WSB just completed a project within the last year that's now under construction, the Elk River project, which is probably the most significant engineering / utility project in this state in at least the last 20 years. The high accuracy underground utility locates, they identified every utility conflict on that project at the 30% design stage, which meant they were way ahead of the curve on this whole thing. So good work on that one too. So
yeah, that's thanks to Paul. Paul is the key person there.
Yeah.
So it's been great. And WSB is a national, I know they're stronger in some states than others, but they are a premier design engineering company.
Well, yeah, they're located here right over in Golden Valley. So
and their CEO on down, many of their executives were at our first meeting. All right.
And here's one more editorial comment. They should have been the ones designing Southwest LRT, not that goofy group of people that they got working on Southwest LRT. Much of that delay on that project was utility related. Okay, I'm going.
Okay, thank you, Brad. And then please work with Steve and I on those dates so we get those dates on the calendar soon, because there's a lot going on in January as well. And then I will do the MnDOT proposal probably tomorrow morning. So anybody
Okay.
else on CGA, I'd appreciate it. Paul or Joe, do you have any comments for me? Or
Barb, we're happy to help however we can.
okay.
Yeah, we could just as well take that offline, but absolutely we're on board to do whatever we can to support the cause.
Okay, but that's where I am with the CGA, and I appreciate all your support as we move through this into this phase 2.
As you can tell, Barb is extremely busy, and on top of that, she's moving.
Oh, my house is almost empty. So
All right, there you go. Santosh, you dropped something into the chat. Can you chime in and tell us what that's all about?
Yeah, sure. And again, I was in a CGA fall meeting that just happened a week before. I'm heavily involved in the technology committee. I'm on the board for the technology committee, and there are some new technologies that's been always displayed in the technology committee. Just to give a little bit more understanding, so how the committees work at CGA is technology committee vets some of these technologies and pass it on to the best practice to take a more closer look and make some additions to the best practices. So as Barbara mentioned, there was a technology report that was released by CGA, which captures all the case studies that has been published, and most of them are associated with the underground utility locating. So I just sent that link, which is the annual technology report that will be published by CGA, which has some good information just for the group to get some awareness on those things. The other thing is there is a CGA annual conference meeting happening next year. There's a call for papers to secure some spots at CGA annual conference that's happening in Orlando, I guess, if I'm right. So if there is anything that we could get some spots secured to talk about what's happening at MnDOT, I think it will be a good platform to show what we are kind of accomplishing. I think I did talk to some of my CGA colleagues and talk about what's happening at UUMPT. Most of them were not aware, and they kind of appreciated the effort that's being put together by this group. So there is some opportunity to make some noise in the industry to tell what we are kind of accomplishing. I think we made some good progress on earlier phases. So I just want to make some comment about it.
yeah, I did submit a proposal last week, and then they're going to decide if they accept us during next month. But I assume we'll be accepted. So we're going to cover our project here at that April meeting.
That's
Thank
good
you,
news.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Santosh. Appreciate that. See if I can get this thing to move along here. Okay, we're pretty much right on schedule. At this point,
my.
what we're going to do is take a look at what I listed on the agenda as a UUMPT mapping project. We're going to first look at the phase 1 end review, and then we'll look at phase 2 startup. And I'm throwing the entire UUMPT leadership team under the bus on driving this conversation, because I think as we work our way through this, we're going to be jumping around to several different places. And so not only leadership team, the rest of you all out there, please feel free to chime in at any point in the discussion. And with that, the phase 1 end review, where we are right now is Barb alluded to earlier, is we are transitioning from a research and development, a development of a prototype, to the creation of a version 1 production software. We consider phase 1 as defined as done, and the basis upon which we did that, there will be in this discussion 5 breakout items. First, we'll talk about what the criteria was that we came up with and work towards to complete over the summer, the end of phase one. We'll talk shortly about a new process name / software name and the dog chasing its tail routine that turned out to be. And then we're going to go take a look at a website, talk about work that's going on with some brochures. And the last thing we'll take a look at is some legal agreement positioning and where that's at. So Bob Bisquez was beating the drum, and he said, we all have to align here during the summer as to what it is and where we are with the project of phase one being done. What does that really look like? So Bob probably can jump in and describe this far better than I can, but I'll at least take a whack at it. We had to make a significant reprogramming on what we call a FusionView software to import a XML feed directly from One Call Concepts. And I believe as we rolled things up for the summer, that was already working, but there was some fine tuning that went on to be able to make that much better. Then there was the need there's some breakout maps that exist, and we're going to take a look at all of this stuff. There's some breakout maps, and what happened there was to be able to make the capability of those links searchable. I should say panable would be a correct way to say it, that you can pull those specific breakout maps, whether it's electric, whether it's water, wastewater, whatever. You can pull them around and look at them in greater detail. And that's been achieved. And then the effort was to work so that the locator data would be a direct pull from subsurface solutions for this phase. And we've demonstrated effectively that works without problem. Travis will tell you that we crashed his servers, but sorry about that. Then that process, we've been able to demonstrate, in fact, that it does in fact work. And that's the equivalent really of the ability to pull from a utility. And then we need to formally lay out the technical expectations for a participating utility. So as Barb goes knocking on doors, she needs to have something in her hand to be able to say, here's what we're working on, and we'd sure appreciate it if you'd participate. And then last but not least, and again, in support of Barb's effort, that there's a password protected demo site. And so what I'm going to do now is jump into the kind of first, we've talked through the criteria, and part of what we ran into was a discussion that underground utilities mapping project team not only is a mouthful, it doesn't do a very good job of bringing zing to the process. So some very smart people spent a bunch of time trying to come up with a list for us of potential names, and the names are displayed on the screen of what we might want to rename our effort. And I don't know what is that, 45 some names. And through kind of working through this, we ended up circling back to none other than FusionView. But there's a problem from the legal perspective of a couple of other entities that are parked close to that name. And we looked at some additional names: shared grid, dig grid, D grid, I guess is how you'd say that, one grid, dig view, whatever. And what we're trying to do there is to get ourselves clear of any discussion at the U.S. Trademark and Patent Office that we are trying to squat on somebody's territory that was already owned. And there's a variety of different ways at which that gets looked at and whatever. And so where we are right now is we've circled all the way back to FusionView because the Z in it makes it unique. And to the degree that during this next phase, we aren't really, if you will, going to be out in the world hawking something. And so in talking this issue recently with Dean, who is the Dean Parker, the legal counsel for Gopher State One Call, and Barb, we more or less came back to the thought, for the time being, unless there is howling from this group over the adoption of one of the names that's on this screen or one of the names that are back here, that we are going to go with FusionView for the time being. So this is your opportunity to chime in and tell us what you think. Are we good to go with that name, or you think something else ought to be used?
Well, Steve, let me just add to this. So the FusionView name is for the software, the open source software. There's another name. It may be the same. We don't know. But if it's adopted throughout, OCC call centers, what's the name for the process? Is it 811 grid? Is it dig grid? So there's a capability name, from a branding standpoint. And then there's the open source software platform. So the open source software platform we're proposing is FusionView, spelled with a Z and no space and a capital V. For the entire process, we don't have a name for that yet. So just to be clear on that.
Thank you, Barb. Travis has had some pretty strong ideas
Mhm.
about where we want to go. You want to chime in with what you're thinking, Travis?
I don't know. I'm traveling, so it might not be the best signal. So, but no, I was just, what I say, I guess, in between emails may not be pertinent to what we're doing here. So, but DigGrid, I think DigGrid was keeps coming back to mind. It's a good pick, even though it sounds weird. It's simple and kind of compiles everything that we're doing into one word.
And that would be for the software.
Yeah, for the
Okay.
software. Yeah. And I'm just not opinionated on the other part yet. So,
Okay.
Travis, are you okay for the time being with us just sticking with FusionGrid just to keep things, or FusionView just to keep things simple?
FusionView. Yes, because we've been
Okay.
using it for so long. Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other thoughts, concerns, whatever out there? Go
Steve,
on.
this is Santos. Just a comment. Some of the names shown on the screen are already in implementation. For example, Utility Source, that's already out in the market for the Missouri.
Which one's that? I'm sorry.
Utility Source.
Okay.
So that's
Got
the
it.
software name for the Missouri.
Okay. Any other thoughts? All right. Barb, I think we got a sealed deal here.
Okay, so we know the software going forward for the short term, unless something evolves. But once you name something like we've been doing, it tends to stick. Excuse me.
As
Okay,
long as there's not a trademark issue, right? I mean, that's the whole reason we were changing.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it was very close to something that's already out there that does this type of work.
The comment that I'd made to Barb is when we go with the actual rollout of the production software, I really do think that at that point, that's your opportunity to change things. If at that point the thought is dig grid or whatever, one grid or whatever, it now seems to across the group have a better ring. At least we got the thought process going, and for the time being, we'll just stick with that just so we can get moving forward and not have that as a roadblock.
Mm-hmm.
You can think of it like Dig Grid powered by FusionView.
Mm-hmm. So dig grid is the whole process, calling in your ticket, getting the excavation area, pinging the utilities, showing the data, right? That could be the dig grid name.
There you go.
Mhm.
Okay. If it's okay, we'll move on.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is we're going to actually jump over and look at a website. And again, not that a website name or URL puts anything in concrete, because this is just a prototype website. And on it, we're going to take a look at the brochure plan, legal agreements, and some other stuff. So let me see if I can jump from here effectively. So I did we jump across and you can still see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So you should be seeing a mess of stuff going every which way. And we basically set this up as the support piece for Barb's efforts. And it's at the URL that we're talking about here, FusionView.org. And if you come on here, you can roll down and see what's been laid out. And also, if you would, everyone, please check your mute. Or I can hit the mute all here. Okay, thank you. And so the front page is just nothing more than kind of starting the sell of who we're doing this for, and description down here. Again, names can be changed out. There isn't a problem there. URL can be changed out. But the thought here is we then jump into a discussion about why this is happening and how we came out of the blocks as a Minnesota government approved, or an entity with a Minnesota government approved mission statement. Here's who is endorsing us, collaboration in the news, status of what we're up to. And then for many of you are aware that in fact, every event that we have had has been recorded. So at the bottom of this about page is a link feature that takes you over to the YouTube videos and takes you what will be posted here. So if I click on this right now, it's going to come back and tell me that lo and behold, I don't know what I'm doing, apparently, to be inserted. Because as I'll explain here in a minute, although we've got a rough brochure in place, we got some work that needs to be done, because we've come to determine, we thought we were originally going to be able to have an executive summary that, or I should say, a one flyer that would serve purposes of both providing an overview executive summary style sell, and then on the backside, kind of the technical pieces and how to get connected into the process. And we've decided over the last couple of weeks that needs to be split apart into something dedicated for the CEO level or whoever on the upper management level, and then something that more specifically helps the GIS community. So both of those are in redraft right now, and we hope to be able to have those posted up here for review and consideration by others here shortly. So that's the potential layout for how we think the about page should be. And then over on the partners page, the idea there is, if somebody just comes wandering in here, this is the sell about what we want to try to do to get partners involved, and some very, very basic things about we need, this kind of capability out of your utility. And then over here, step 2, what needs to be done, and that's to acquire one of these user agreements and go forward from there. All of these items make most sense for review and consideration by the members of this group if they're sort of like readily available. And what I've done to try to facilitate that is that there is a password protected page. And so we're kind of at the evolution point again as we're transitioning out of phase one. For any of these readily available items, what the vision here would be, if I can, I don't know why that did not work, but let's see if we can get it to work. The idea would be from this point forward is to have a team page so that you all don't need to go running around looking for stuff in a variety of different places, that you know for this effort going forward, both for Barb's cell purposes and for, if you will, kind of immediate project kind of stuff, rather than, volumes of paperwork hidden in folders. We'll just make them readily available off of this team page. And so if you're wondering what the password is to get in here, if this is top secret stuff, right? This thing's being recorded. So if somebody's with it enough to have gone this far into the recording, they would find out that the password is UUMPT in all capitals. So all you got to do is type that in there and you'll have access to this page. And so, for instance, as of October 27th, I've gone through and uploaded the current forms of the contracts that we vision will be required to try to facilitate the process going forward. So, for instance, you click on the designer contract, and it's going to pop up in here. You can download it. You can, take a look at it in detail. But the reason that stuff is there, sure, it's going to show up. I don't know what I got going on here with Adobe today, but it doesn't like my machine. Okay, so there it is. And you can download the thing, read through it. Are there things here that the team missed that's put this together? And so that approach is going to facilitate providing feedback. And as these items get updated on the team page, they'll be made available. So here's the contracts. Here's the public info items. I'll post those up as soon as I get done doing the initial edits on them. And the intent here is to try to create the content, and then OCC Creative is going to turn them into something pretty that will support the efforts going forward. And then the other thing I thought would be handy to do on this page would be to put team notes that have the URL reference items that were discussed in the PowerPoint that we have today, and anything else that goes forward, because it's hard as heck to try to follow some of these URLs. But that's where I will, post them, that anything that's in the PowerPoint is there available for you to grab and to zero in on. Then it takes us down to the viewer piece, and probably the best thing to do here is to get logged in on that one. Now, this has got a different password and only Barb's going to get it, kind of thing for the time being. But the point here is that the active viewer is available off of this same page. And at this point, Bob, if you will take over driving here, I know Bob will need to reload from his perspective, but how we've tried to frame this is to put a couple of very important notes. So this one basically says this is a prototype of the Gopher State One Call administrative interface. The individual ticket request will not be able to see map data associated with other tickets. So this is the total view. And as we've talked about in great detail, the respective ticket is only going to show the information for the ticket site. And so, here's, for example, the tickets down in our Glencoe area, and they've already stress tested the system to see if it can take in all of the ones for the state of Minnesota. And in fact, it can. And then we've got some instructions for its use, and, go ahead and click here. That's kind of the layout of the module that, again, will be available to Barb to be able to support her efforts. And the concept here would be to be able to demonstrate the concepts to people rather than just talking about them. And, this is available while phase 2, if you will, is being developed by wherever that ends up being assigned to for a contractor type arrangement. So what I'm going to do is I'll stop at this point, and then last thing on the website is, in fact, how to contact us and the rest of it. But at this point, I think what I would like to find out is if there are any thoughts about construction of this website, and if we've kind of approached it the correct way for this to be a resource for the members of this organization, and if there's other ideas about additional items that you might want to see on this website. And then we'll turn it over to Bob to go ahead and do a walkthrough of where the interface is. Was everybody so shy? Any thoughts at all?
I have I guess a thought about it. Can y'all hear me?
We can, Liz. Thank you.
Oh, good. Okay. So the partners, the way I'm tracking with that is the companies that are participating. Like for me, if CenturyLink Lumen, if we submit our data, then we're a partner, right? Yeah.
That'd be correct. And we'll put an icon up showing that, in fact, you're a participating entity. Yep.
So if I was a user of it, to know whose data I'm viewing, I would go to the partner list. Like if I was looking for a specific company to see, what their underground facilities were, if they weren't listed as a partner, then I'm going to know that they're not sharing on this site.
I think a better way to think about that would be through how the specific ticket itself breaks out and lists the entities that are participating in that particular location. And I think you'll see that when Bob does a drive-through. Does that make sense to you?
Well, yeah, that would just be like a go for one call ticket where you can see the members. It's exactly the same. You can see the member list for that, because your dig site might not hit all the partners, if that's what you're looking for. If you're just looking for areas, then that's something different. I mean, this is very similar to, just a regular one call ticket,
Yeah. So on the partner page that you're talking about, my thinking would be is that we need to have an informational piece that's handy here to if you will help do the sell.
Yeah.
And then I think, just like any sponsor of an organization, I think it would be appropriate to have either a running bar of the utilities that are participating, or some sort of breakout with the logo showing CenturyLink is a participating partner in this effort.
Okay.
XL Energy is a participating partner, blah, blah, blah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I think you and I are on the same wavelength of thinking about that.
I think so. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Any other thoughts? Oh, okay. Bob, would you like to?
Yep, you need to release the
Yeah,
control.
release the crack, and I'll do that. I've stopped my share, and you should be able to pick it up.
All right, I picked the screen. Why is it every time I try this, they've changed it, and now I don't know how to. Can you see my screen okay?
Yep, we got you.
Oh, okay, cool. So as Steve indicated, this is our test area down in Glencoe, Minnesota. So, here's the whole state, or most of it anyway. And our area that we're working in is this Glencoe area right here. And we are limiting our tickets that we're taking in to just this area. So the boundaries that you see there in the black lines are actually the ticket boundaries. These are coming in directly from OCC's service. So they're the actual GSOC tickets. One thing I do want to say is that we're not changing the existing GSOC ticketing system in any way right now. All we're doing is adding more information to it. So the idea here is that you can see these tickets. Again, this is the administrative interface. This is not intended as the end user interface. So the people that are going to be looking at the tickets will not have this level of access to things. The tickets that you see here are we're only pulling in the data.
Just Bob, real quick, just to be clear, if you're a user of the system, you will only see one ticket at a time and only data for that one ticket. So Bob mentioned this is an administrator view.
Yes.
Just to be clear, so people don't get nervous about this.
Right. So nobody's going to be able to see the data at the level that I'm showing you right now. So you'll be able to turn on, different pieces of information. And these are the layers that are related to each one of the tickets here. And you'll notice that it's all clipped back to those particular boundaries. None of the information is available in between. We're storing all of the information when we grab it. We're not storing it. When we grab the information, it is clipped to the actual boundaries of each ticket. So when you go and actually look at a particular ticket, the way that this administrative interface would work is you would just click in a particular spot on the map, and all of the tickets that are overlapping the particular location that I clicked on are available for viewing. And this interface is what an end user for a ticket would see. So you'll see the polygon map on the top with all of the information aggregated together for each one of the feature sets. And then you also have a submap down below here for each one of the categories of information, and each map is zoomable unto itself. So you can move each one of these maps around individually. And you can also control all the maps at the same time from the top map. So this is what the end user will see. And this is bound to the actual ticket that comes from OCC. We actually have a link here for that particular ticket from OCC side, and everybody should be familiar with what they see here because this is the actual ticket that Gopher State or that OCC puts together. There's your list of all of the entities that have information within the polygon, or they think have, how do I say this? The bounding polygons of each data owner. This is their the list that the OCC provides with each of the tickets, and then their mapping system. So you'll be able to see any of our tickets in this fashion right now. So this is the talk about this as our prototype interface. We've worked out all the mechanics of what's going on here, and just as a little bit of a background, what happens here is when you actually send a ticket through GSOC over at OCC, their system will send FusionView the ticket number and a polygon. A ticket number and polygon is put into a database, and then FusionView will go out, and it doesn't do it immediately. It does about every 5 minutes. It goes out and checks each one of the data providers, and you can see all of the different providers that are listed here. It'll go out and actually query each one of those servers to get the information for that particular ticket. FusionView will hang on to that information for the date or for the inclusive dates that are bound to the ticket itself. When OCC sends us the ticket, there's a begin date and an end date. We only are hanging on to the data while that ticket is active. After that, the data is purged. I think that's pretty much everything, isn't it, Steve?
Yeah, there's a question from Justin. What are the gray dots on the maps?
Those are the upload pieces that we're working with on with the subsurface with. So the gray, well, let's see here. There's different gray dots. This reference one is that layer that we put together for termination, surface termination of particular items. So the idea there is that these gray dots would be spots where some kind of underground infrastructure would terminate on the surface. That's something that we put together just as kind of a value added. We weren't really sure how that's going to play out into moving forward with everything. And right now it's an aggregate of everything. So the gray dots are put in there for that reason. And some of the termination points are for things that are not displayed inside the interface because it's just one data set that we were throwing on there. In another situation, some of it is the information that is being pulled in from out in the field where they're actually using the RTK devices and pulling that information in from the field, which is another aspect of what FusionView is able to do. It doesn't need to collect information just from OCC. We can actually grab information from out in the field as well. So there's a mechanism for FusionView to accept that data and throw it into the ticket views that you see here as well.
Does anyone have any questions for Bob?
Well, how about some comments? Because I don't think it's been a while since folks on this call have seen this. I would like,
Bob,
most
this
of
is
you.
Damon.
Yeah.
Do we have anything in the short, medium, long-term works, or did I miss it, that would allow the user to, get a web service feed of the results here so that they could put it into their own infrastructure?
Behind the scenes here in this particular page that you're looking at, this information is coming out as a WMS.
Okay.
One of our very last details is on this page, we want to add in a WMS and a WFS. We didn't think that was really important for this particular, this is kind of, think of this as Barb's sales tool. The idea here is that on the bottom of this main map up on the top, there would be a link for a WMS and probably a WFS link for each one of the data sets that are in the windows.
And my group might be, rare, not common, but that would be the most valuable thing on there for us because we'd want to put it into our own system so we could overlay all of our other, layers and features.
Yep.
In conjunction with that.
And
again,
Damon, let me just interrupt on that, Damon. That's going to be something that some facility operators may be okay with it and some may not. So I think we have to be open to how that answer evolves.
Yeah, as a web map service, if you do it right, you can't really scrape the data. It really is just a viewing service.
Right.
And so I would try to argue with those, facilities that does it really make a difference if you're viewing it here, by itself, or if you're viewing it in conjunction with, other data? And I imagine it can still have the timelines of the ticket, so it comes and goes.
Yeah, it's good.
But, and again, maybe I missed this, so just for clarity, when you guys are talking about the administrator versus the user, are you envisioning an administrator such as like at a construction company like myself, where we have a couple people that are kind of the gatekeepers of all of our tickets, that they'll be able to see all the company tickets that are, with a particular contractor?
There is
Because
an
I know that's one
element.
of our things that I've all right, that's one of the things I've worked with Barb on, and I know, we're hoping that this will maybe incorporate that was, we have hundreds, if not thousands of tickets at any given time, throughout the state. Some projects have several tickets and we just have several projects, and the ability to manage them all together is a big benefit for us.
There's an element of the phase 2 contract that's still in discussion related to setting up some kind of a dashboard for that purpose. That's
Okay.
as far as the discussion's gone. So.
Sure. And then I imagine that for the end user part too, is there, I realize we're really early, so is there any talk on later phases for mobile user-friendly ways? Because I know like all of our crews will be, equipped with mobile devices, and they want to be able to stand, at the corner of a right of way and say, all right, let me pull up my ticket, see my blue dot where I'm standing, and let me see if, I'm good to go here or not, right?
In phase 2, that's another piece of the assembly process. But the idea is that the page that you're looking at right now
Yep.
you'll be able to take it with you, and all of the information that's in there, hopefully as like a JSON stream of some sort, or a JSON file, you'll be able to take that out into the field, and you won't have to have an internet connection or anything. This particular report will be available to you, and you'll be able to use it that way. There may be some more discussions on the legalities of how that's going to happen, but that's technically that's an ability that we can add.
Oh, well, and then to answer that, Damon and Bob, would you be able to see where you are as well on that map, or is that what the JSON does? I'm
Well,
not
the
aware.
JSON piece of it is actually the feature information that you see in here, the line work that you see on the
Oh,
map.
okay.
Each individual piece of information there would be included inside the web page when they download it,
But now
as a piece of line work.
I would
now he
imagine,
wants to see where he is. So
if we can get it as a JSON, I could put it into my own system, and that might be where you get some of your, grumbles, is because then I got data that, even if it's just read-only version, it doesn't really have an expiration date because I got it, right?
Yeah, and it's just a browser page. So if your device has a GPS on it, we can actually have the map follow the GPS as well.
Yeah,
so I like everything.
Just don't get too. We have to work through. Right now, we're saying that we don't keep the data. You can only view it for the during the life of the ticket and view it real time. So I know we've gotten feedback that it makes people nervous when people start pulling it into their own system or et cetera. So
that's why
I
it's
know you understand.
only kept as a WMS right now. So
right.
And the way that the user views it, it's going to be through the one call system. So it's what OCC really comes out with, and if they're mobile or not. This is just a translation of what we're pulling in and being able to hook everything together.
I like everything I'm seeing. I just wanted to know what was on the horizon.
No, that's good. Great questions. Thanks, Damon. Excellent.
Justin, you had a question?
Maybe it's more of a comment too. Has there been consideration of how we're going to QC or the quality of the, it's only as good as the data we put in, right?
Correct.
It's no secret that Excel, we got one very large mapping project going on. We're finding bumps in the road, right? So maybe on the corner of 13th Street there, you're able to get real-time correction, and on 14th Street, you might only be looking at your GPS differentials, so you might not be as accurate.
As part of the process of integrating with each one of these data owners, one of the pieces of information that we have a slot for in our schema is accuracy of the data that's being pulled in, and it can be applied. It should be applied down at the feature level. One of the problems with that is not all organizations are recording that data the same way. So we've got to come up with some mechanism to standardize that on our side, and then a method to map their quality aspects into the data. So we're going to have to figure out a mechanism, figure out the details of that, but we have had a lot of conversation around that point. So the containers for putting all that information away and presenting them to the ticket viewers is all there, but we're gonna have to figure out how we're gonna manage displaying it and making it obvious to the people what they're looking at.
Great. I'm glad to hear that because like I said, going into what we thought was going to be a very quick feed into our system, we're finding a lot of nuances and you're finding out where a lot of the data has to be reworked and figured out. So I'm glad to hear that, and then glad that everybody's understanding that the way I collect it might be different than the way the next company collects it. So
Yep, that's been obvious from the start. We already ran into a lot of that aspect. Another piece of it is sizes of particular infrastructure. You can have a 7-foot sewer pipe, versus 1-inch electric line. So that's another piece of very similar information that we're looking for.
one other thing, Barb, so the life of the ticket. So are we looking at like if I have a project ticket that's good for 6 months, I'm going to be able to see this for 6 months, or are we just going to keep it at the routine 14 days?
No, it'll be for all the tickets, but you won't be able to, the data won't be stored anyplace. So you have to go back in and, ping it again. But yes, it'll be the life of the ticket. And then for design engineers, that's another concern. How long do they need access to the data? And what do they do with it? Maybe there's a different agreements for design engineers that, because they get a lot of maps and put it in their design systems. So maybe that's a different agreement. We have to get feedback from those, from the utility companies and the design engineers as to what will work for that.
And OCC does have a mechanism to be able to extend tickets, and the other option would be to just go and grab another ticket. The service works, adequately for that kind of purpose. The bigger deal that you want to stay away from in that particular situation is letting people think that they've got all the information that they need. My personal preference here would be to say, make a new ticket, because then you're going to get the latest information. That 2-week gap there is kind of the big jumping point there between when you can have different data sets. But if you make everybody go and get new data every time, you're fairly confident that they've got the latest and greatest.
I just want to comment on that because there's some people on the phone. The more tickets we have, the more locating there is and the more demand. So there's a balance between just doing a ticket when you need it. So I just wanted to put that out there, that we're very sensitive to the being efficient.
I was talking more to the engineering side, sorry.
Oh, yeah, okay, that's it. Got it. Yeah, good point. Any other, how about some more comments from people? What, thank you, Damon and Justin. Anybody else? We really need your thoughts. So your unexpressed thoughts, please speak up. Not all at once.
Barb, would it be able to, I know this is like futuristic thinking here, but when you have your list of members that are listed on the ticket, would it be able to like highlight and for on the Gopher State One Call side of it and say, okay, these are the members that are participating in the mapping?
Yeah, when you look at the tickets that you see here, the information that's in this left column is from our development of the prototype. The information you see here was just us tabulating things, so it's giving you the numbers and features, that kind of stuff. But in the end, what we wanted to put over here is exactly that information. Who is giving the information, who's providing the information that you see in the particular map. So that'll end up over here on the left.
Yeah, I understand that. But like when you flip back to the ticket,
click on the ticket. Click
on the ticket, like you're actually looking at a ticket.
There you go.
You would have you'd have a quick reference guide.
Yeah. Click view GSOC ticket.
Yeah.
And then you scroll down to the positive response. And then what Justin is saying, can you highlight or bold the ones that are participating in the
yeah, we can figure out a method for that. That may be a part of that dashboard I was talking about, or some sort of a subset. This is it's a really fuzzy kind of use case here right now in my head. It seems like everybody else here on the call knows more about what they want out of that. So that'll be an interesting build out. But I think we've all kind of figured out that there needs to be some kind of a dashboard for that exact kind of highlighting of information.
So it's been a while since we've all talked. Do we got anybody other than Glencoe who's going to start adding some data for us to guinea pig on?
Well, that's the point of my outreach.
Right.
We used Glencoe as the guinea pig. We also, the team really did a good job of being sure it scaled to the entire state of Minnesota. Could handle 950,000 tickets a year with an average of 6 utilities per ticket. So a tremendous amount of data. And that's why now phase 2 is to get, and so while phase 2 is being developed, some of us have to go out and talk to the utility companies and say, this is what's coming, this is where we're at, this is where we're going. So exactly right, Damon. The other thing I thought of here as both Damon and Justin are talking, we could use volunteers over the next several months here as, as we're doing here with feedback. And so we may need to have quote focus groups or feedback sessions as we progress during the next several months. I think that might be effective.
I mean, keep in mind there's still some bumps in the road that we're resolving, and we've excelled at overcoming a lot of those. But it's nice to start small, and then and that's the whole theory is we'll branch it out as we feel comfortable before Bob crashes another server.
No, I agree. My favorite way in any new development is to build something so simple that the only complaint is why it doesn't do more. Because then you got a starting point to go forward on.
Yeah.
Good point.
What's your vision on the cadence of updating the data? Like,
it's going to be updated. It's not really a responsibility of FusionView because we're going directly to the owner server every time.
Mm-hmm.
It's up to them. So if they update their data, it's whatever data, it's their responsibility.
What kind of resources?
So will you have a record of the last time that facility owner updated their data?
I don't know how that would play into things as far as getting something meaningful, but maybe Barb's got a better handle on that.
Well, I think the tickets can be accessed, not accessed and viewed. We are not saving data. We're not saving a record of it. The facility operators know when they've updated their data. But the point of this isn't to keep and store any facility operators' data.
It would be hard for us to track that aspect, I guess, is what it amounts to.
Because that's not our information. So if, say, somebody had a complaint, this happened on this date, but there's also disclaimers on, there's going to be a lot of disclaimers saying everybody needs to mark in the field. You got to follow the 216D. This is for, and we don't have the language yet, but guidance, not for locating and excavation.
So Steve and Barb, this might be more a Steve question. Some of these utility companies, I would expect, maybe don't have the know-how or the resources to, get their data in a format that can be fed to Bob. Do we have any resources or that we're gonna, be offering to help them if they want to do it but don't know how to?
Yeah, I think the easy way to think about that is the concept on phase 2 is to get a working piece of software. And as we're in that process, doing the parallel planning for circumstances exactly as you're describing. One of the issues that we've beat up in the past has been the concept of doing something similar to Logis in the Logis organization in the Twin Cities, which provides for smaller communities GIS services. And I believe ultimately that is going to need to be, there's going to be a need for an organization of that nature to assist the smaller utilities, those that just simply don't have the user community, their end users of sufficient number for them to have on board a dedicated GIS capability. Something will need to happen along those lines. But our next point of focus is going to be getting a releasable piece of software developed. That's where we're trying to head, but I hear you loud and clear.
I mean, keep in mind, Glencoe doesn't have a dedicated GIS person, and they're pretty small. And we deal with municipals that are 150 households in the town, and they can make it work. So that, you know, it's feasible it's not as difficult as it seems. And we're going to have explainer videos. That's part of our next phase too. I mean, we're going to have a video showing how this all works to be able to show it to people coming in new, and then possibly have an explainer video to show how you could put it all together yourself.
Thank you, Travis. Any more comments?
Well, I
Okay.
appreciate the feedback and discussion. This is really great. As you can see, the team's made tremendous progress since we last met. Yeah.
Okay. With that, Bob, I'm going to steal a screen back.
Okay.
And move on to, if I can find it. Move on to the next elements in the PowerPoint. Now that we beat that up pretty good. Let me see here. Website. Okay. The next topic then is, that's a reality. We've hit the end on phase one. The rocket ship blew up on the pad. So what are we going to do to move into this phase two thing? Phase two startup, as was indicated in that, just first element to discussion, transition from research and development prototype to the creation of version 1 production software. Kind of three elements worthy of discussion or explaining. The ways to think about administrative arrangements, the statement of work, and then last but not least, something Barb has already zeroed in on, that's the needs assessment and some group action items. So let's go take a look at what these things look like. So administrative arrangements is pretty straightforward. The concept will be that a dedicated software development team will be hired. The software development team will work for Gopher State One Call. And then the UUMPT, this larger group, will remain as we've been structured up to this point, with primarily an advisory focus going forward. And are there any thoughts, discussions? Barb, you want to chime in with anything else on that?
No, it's no, that's fine.
Okay. The statement of work concept. The statement of work is kind of one of those things that has to get batted around long enough until everybody's happy, and there's, the thought of many fingers in the pie on this. There's the technical end, there's the structural issues, there's the elements of how it fits back against a master service agreement. That is actively in work. There's a lawyer that is dedicated to specifically this particular item down at Dean's firm in Chicago. And the end goal of what that is working towards is an agreement that will result in a delivery of an open source in-state product, anticipating as it sits right now a 9-month development effort to official release. And this being seen as during this development, this next development phase, as being a plus up capability for Gopher State One Call. It's not a critical element. It's not defined in law. It's as this product is being developed, an add-on capability to what the current one call system provides. And again, floor open on this one. Is there any additional items we need to talk about with that, Barb?
I know it's just so everybody understands, it'll be open source software. It can be used eventually for other types of fusing and viewing of data, not related to underground utilities, but we're doing underground utilities.
Thank you. And then the last element here is this needs assessment / group action items. I scribbled down what I thought they were, and this is where Barb will need to give us some direction. I think if we could get a group of 2 or 3 people for each item there to sit down and wander through a review of them, it would be most beneficial in the efficient moving along of our efforts. And the ones that seem to kind of stick out for me are actually 1 through 4. A review of the website, is there anything that can be done better there? A review of the brochures, and as I indicated earlier, I will be posting those up to that website here in short order after I get a chance to work through the various comments that have come forward to this point and get that stuff consolidated into some format, because the group brain versus 1 or 2 people looking at something can often come up with some really good ideas. So it'd be great if we could get a group looking at that. A review of contracts. Dean has been beating the drum repeatedly that he needs folks to come in and look at the contracts that he's worked up. And I think poor Dean has not gotten the level of feedback that he should have and deserves. And if we can, again, get 3 or 4 people to just zero in on the contracts, take a look through them. What are the gaps? What does that look like out there? What are the needs to make sure those things look right? And then this is specifically up to Barb to figure out. I'm going to be working with the group down in Chicago to try to get a statement of work really well refined and clear. But on the back end of that, forest for the tree situation, another couple set of eyes going across the statements of work might be of value. So, Barb, are you kind of on the same wavelength with those 4 items?
Yeah, I think if there's people on the call that want to just raise their, say, yes, I'd like to be sure that I review X, Y, and Z. Another term for contracts is agreements. So if you're a trusted excavator or a trusted design engineer or a facility operator, there are more agreements. That may be a word that fits better.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's in fact what Dean does call them.
Yeah. But it'd be good right now if there's a person or 2 that says, I'd really like to give that brochure a look or look at those agreements. Or send me an email or Steve an email.
So do we have any takers right now?
We'll do the voluntold approach. No.
We could recruit like they do for the Russian army.
Oh.
Go down to the tram stop and you're good enough. We want you to do this.
Yeah,
so please give it some consideration.
Yeah.
As you can tell all summer long, there's been a lot of hard work that's gone on. And if you could just give us a couple of hours to either review a website, take a look at the brochures, take a look at their agreements, they're not, if you will, an overpowering thing, but
it'll take you a little bit of time, and your insight is very valuable.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Hey, excuse me, y'all. This is David Phillips at Enbridge, and I'm beat my people up and get them to take a look at the contracts.
Great.
But I've been having trouble tracking somebody down, but I'm gonna have to probably escalate it a little bit because I think this is very important.
Okay, thank you, David. I got you written down for agreements. Thank you.
Yeah, all right. Excellent. Yep.
Anyone else? All right.
Yeah.
And as Barb's indicated, you can shoot either me or Barb an email and that'd be a good thing. Last thing, that bullet 5 outreach support, that circles back to the idea of what Paul was able to do for us at WSB, and to the degree that you have an opportunity to maybe, sandwich us in somewhere, always appreciated.
Yeah, because we'd be more than happy to talk to your organization, or like Brad Henry, get us in front of some of the associations. We need all of that help because you have so many contacts that we need to get the word out and get this socialized and get people excited.
Barb,
Thank
when it gets to that point, this is Karen. I'd be more than happy to reach out to the endorsing organizations that we have for the conference and see if you'd be able to speak with them. I think we right now have about 60 endorsing organizations.
Wow. Okay. And what would your thought be? We give a presentation to them, or what are you thinking?
Or even write something up that see if they'd be willing to distribute it to their membership for the information. Depends on what you'd be looking to communicate to figure out what the best venue that they would have available would be.
Okay.
Could be something in their newsletter, could be a presentation at one of their conferences, that they would have a lot of possibilities.
Yeah, see, something like that is amplifying it tremendously. So thanks. Yeah, the amplification is probably a good word that we need.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Thank you, Karen. Appreciate
Yeah.
that. Okay. We're right on schedule. Hard to believe.
I can't believe it.
Open discussion, other items. Is there anything else out there that we need to consider? Going once, going twice. Everybody wants to work on their Halloween costume. I know. Okay, well, we'll keep it going here. All right. Barb, you got anything? Open discussion? Any last
Well,
thought?
we had a lot of silent folks on the call that have thoughts, and I know I've asked this consistently through this meeting today, but your unexpressed thoughts, if a few of you would verbalize just what you're thinking, it would help us a lot. So I just do one final request for that.
So the floor is open, I think is what Barb's saying.
Yeah.
It's helpful to know if we're going off the deep end or we're tracking where you think we should be.
Okay, so otherwise we're gonna go full steam ahead as we laid out here today. And then please reach out and offer your help where you think you have a big interest. Like Karen with amplifying the message. This has been great. And Justin and Damon with your ideas, and Brad with his. So I can't tell you enough how much we appreciate all this involvement and support.
Okay.
Okay.
I think, Barb, this takes us to the end. Next
Okay.
meeting is you're off the hook because of the way the months of November and December line up. I don't think anybody wants to meet on Thanksgiving, and I don't think our turnout on the 22nd of December is going to be real high. So the leadership group made the determination that the next time we'll get together in a large group will be December 15th. Mark it on your calendar. And as always, I'll send out the meeting announcement so you can pop it into your calendar. The wonderful one is the carryaway. Meet in volunteer groups to work specific action items. We came through pretty thin on any groups coming together, but we'll try to organize something in terms of if there's just one or two of you that want to look at some of the stuff, that'd be great. So Barb, you can shoot a note to either me and Barb or whatever, and everybody knows the magic password to get into the team part, so you can go dig around whenever you want, and then provide feedback as discussed, as note to me and whatever. So with that, we're down to Barb's final comments.
Yeah, I feel we had a great meeting today. Everybody's comments and input is so much appreciated. It's really helped. And as it says on the bottom, be safe on Halloween if you have kids or family. And then we'll see you in December, if not communicating between now and then.
Thank you, Barb. And last but not least, behold the turtle. He only makes progress when he sticks his neck out. And with that, we're all done, folks. Thanks. You have a great month and a half ahead. Take care.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Dave.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.